Yeah, it's the Moot Points podcast featuring myself, Brian Moote, generally Patrick Moote, but he's out. He's being a big shot in Hollywood right now, and he had a ball of wax removed from his ear, and he recorded the whole thing, and apparently it's like the size of a marble. So the fact that he could hear anything out of one ear is unbelievable. Sitting in today is the Khristian Lee from The Burt Show, from Food Porn on The Burt Show, from Q100. Doing weekends. We'll get into his job changes that just happened in the last few days in a bit. That's called a tease.
That is a tease. It's a beautiful tease.
I want TSL on this show.
That's right.
Khristian, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. And these are big shoes to fill since Pat is abroad.
They're I don't know how big they are to fill. The fact that you if you just get confused and stop listening and talk over me, then you're filling Pat's shoes perfectly. Because that's Pat's style, is usually to already have like a thought in his head, and I'll say something and he'll just keep going.
Right.
He'll go some completely non sequitur and completely
off the cuff, and
just not even close to the realm of what we're talking about. All right, coming up on the show today, like I said, we'll talk about Khristian, talk about his job. We'll get to know Khristian better. I got a lot of comments about people wanting to know about Khristian's life. Also, I'm going to talk more about me and my battle with comments that keep getting taken out of context by people who can't listen, specifically moms and wives. Because for some reason I've become like this. I'm locked in a heated battle.
Right.
And I'm not supposed to be. I'm trying to be so pro woman, so pro mom, so pro wife that I'm like, you guys are super women. You could do anything you want. But for some reason, some people keep taking it as like I'm telling them that being a wife and a mother only is like worthless. And then it morphed into people going, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm like, I didn't say anything about stay-at-home mom. I said nothing about that.
I love when you say something and someone takes it and completely turns it to the way that they want to hear it.
Well, you know where it happens is people who didn't actually listen to what I said. So I posted the audio online of all the comments that I said, and then people start arguing within the comments about a state, and becomes a game of telephone. And I have some of those comments, and I'll clear those up later on in the show. Also, we're going to talk about my boxing fundraiser, Brawl for a Cause, because Khristian has some experience in boxing. And
awesome stuff.
Yeah, we'll discuss it a little bit, whether or not it's a good idea. Also, we'll read some of my mom's text messages to me about she's not happy about it. But I guess no mom wants their kid to get into a boxing ring.
I think they just don't. They just don't want you to get hurt. Even if they think you can handle yourself, it's just the fact. If you've seen Rocky and Apollo Creed when he went down and he died, it's just that's probably the vision they have.
And that's you have kids. We'll talk about that in a little bit too when we get to know you better in this segment. But I feel like no matter what, I'm not a parent, but I feel like if I was a parent, no matter what, I'm always going to err on the side of like worst case scenario fear where, so like I used to skateboard all the time.
Me too.
Love skating. My mom was like, it's so dangerous. Wear a helmet. You're going to crack your head open and die. And I'm like, the odds of that happening, I understand what you're saying, but the odds of that happening are very slim. I'm good at this. Also, I'm not like riding. I'm not in a vert ramp half pipe with Tony Hawk. I'm, jumping 3 stairs at the middle school on a skateboard. Right. But I get it that you're always afraid of that worst case scenario. Like you can't get a motorcycle because you're gonna crash.
That was my dad completely. My dad was always against skateboarding. My mom was just chill because people die going down the steps. People fall down the steps.
Just stairs
and
walking.
Die.
Yeah, just walking.
Yeah, it's happened. I know somebody that watched his father. I'm not trying to get on such a dark story, but that happened to, and it's like, what are the odds of that happening? So yeah, as long as you're not just being a complete daredevil, like. And
that's the thing I'm most afraid of. I'm not afraid of injuries from skateboarding and granted, I don't do that in my 30s now. Though I have thought about it, drunk late at night. I've thought about buying a new skateboard off Amazon. But then I get into this habit of like having a little bit too much to drink and then getting on Amazon and pulling the trigger and all these impulse buys. Right. I just ordered a digital drum set.
Oh, those are dead.
That looks so cool. But it was either that or a skateboard, and I can't hurt myself on a drum set. I am so much more terrified now of innocuous adult injuries than I've ever been in my entire life. Just the and it's not like playing men's league. Men's league sports, there's an inherent level of acceptance of, I'm going to get injured maybe in this. It's like I'm walking down the stairs and I twist my ankle and fall and break my arm, or I just tear something randomly. My dad did that. He slipped and fell and tore his entire quadricep off his knee. Just slipped and fell on a frosty deck.
Oh, yeah.
And never was the same. Never was the same again because he didn't rehab
decks.
it. Well, yeah, not in the South. Well, yeah, in the South, I guess.
Yeah, it gets frosty.
I bet it's even worse out here because everybody's not prepared for the frosty deck. And
these decks get frosty.
In the Pacific Northwest, you got to know the frost is coming.
Yeah,
you got to feel that frosty deck coming. All right. Speaking of adult injuries, I kind of have. I'm working with one through one right now, kind of.
Where's that?
Like my abs. So now, since I'm going to do this boxing thing, I realize I got to start getting back in shape again. Because I mean, I work out every day, but I got to do it hard. I got to eat better. I want to trim down.
Boxing is a different type of injury.
Exactly, and you have and the lighter your body is, the more endurance you have. So, I don't need to be. I'm 230. I don't need to be trying to jump around a ring at 230. I'd rather be at like 210. So I've been trying to do all these different workouts, Sculpt House, Orange Theory, just all these different, on ClassPass. So today I went down to Club Pilates.
Oh, nice.
In Buckhead, right? It's right down on the way into Midtown. And there's three ladies that I was working out with. And it's funny because Pilates, you're on this thing called the Reformer, and it's this board you slide around on, and they have these ropes, and you pull yourself, and these cables and things.
Right.
But one of them, we're on like this, the Reformer board, sliding back and forth, then laying on an elevated box that's like 2 feet wide, 2.5 feet wide by 3 feet long, so it's a rectangle, and it's padded, and it's so you have to keep your feet up off the ground, and your shoulders, so it's a lot of core work, right?
Yeah, sounds brutal.
And I'm not even kidding you. The first time I tried to lift my legs up on this thing, I got the gnarliest cramp.
Oh, no.
Like on the left side, the left top ab muscle. Ooh. And I was so embarrassed because all these ladies were just like...
Were you hunched over like, I can't move?
Well, I was trying to like arch my back and like stretch it out a little bit, but I didn't want to draw attention to the fact that the first ab exercise we did...
You're cramped up.
I'm cramping up. And it was that one that was so violently painful that I'm like, this is going to be a problem the entire class now. I'm just going to have to sit here and power through this thing, and also not let on to everyone else that I can't do this like leg raises. Well, because all these ladies, and there's one who's probably in her 60s, and she was in phenomenal shape.
Crushing it.
Just killing it. Just doing all the ab workout stuff.
Every rep.
Just making me feel like such a fool. And then the worst part was I jogged down there because it's about 2 miles, and then I had to try to jog back. And to everyone on Peachtree who looked at me and saw this wounded animal limping up the side of Peachtree, thank you for not just putting me out of my misery.
This maimed creature.
Yeah, just limping and just making running look so hard. And it's 85 degrees today.
The ugliest runner.
My face looked like... Yeah, it looked like I was cramped in the middle of cramps right there.
That's awful. Cramps suck.
Yo, so
I'm not a big fan of cramps.
So that's my biggest fear with the boxing thing in general, but that's what I'm going to try to get in shape. All right, so let's get to know Khristian. Let's get to know you more beyond. I got some questions, and I'm sure some of these I'll think of some follow-ups. I met you when I moved out here to be on the Bird Show.
Yes.
You were doing traffic for Q100 at the time.
Yes.
You still may end up at some point in time doing traffic again for Q100. Who knows? So let's get that out of the way right there. So Monday you do traffic just as usual on Q100.
Yeah, it was business as usual, and you want me to go into it all?
Well, yeah, sure. We'll touch back on it later on, but just to get it out of the room. Because if you're listening to the show and you already know that Khristian's not doing traffic and did not do traffic today on Q100, and if you listened to the Bird Show this morning, you were all well aware of that because the amount of tweets that we got about whoever's doing... I don't know who's doing traffic. I don't know what techno bed they were using, but people were not happy about it.
I think... And the dude that's doing it is a good dude. Overall, is a good dude. I mean, his... voice is different than mine. He is a good dude, though. I have nothing against him. They basically came in with supposed, they're never going to give you the real reason. Maybe it is the real reason, but budget cuts.
Right.
So without boring everyone with the details of how radio works and how this dude's doing it and why I'm not, Cumulus, who I work for, and who doesn't employ the Burt Show. Burt Show is kind of like a hired...
We're like the Vatican.
Yeah.
We kind of have our own little operating space at Cumulus.
Well, the Burt Show used to be like hired by Cumulus, but they kind of separated out. So I guess Cumulus decided that they could probably cut paying me and then bring in this third-party company who already supplies a lot of these traffic sponsors that we have to report anyway.
Yeah.
So, and that's where, I guess someone in management decided, hey, we can get this guy to do it, and not have to pay him to do it. Well, they are paying. It's just in a
But they're
different
paying
way.
the way radio works sometimes is like for trade or and it's advertising spots and all. It's all sorts of complicated. I learned that when I syndicate a segment called Tough Love with Siri, and we're in markets across the country and in Canada. I think we're at this point like 130 or something.
Oh, wow.
But some of the markets pay close to nothing for the content, but we get instead we get an advertising spot at at 7:35 in a stop set. And then it goes up to the company that syndicates it to be like, okay, we have to sell that now to somebody. So then in that spot, we have like Goodyear Tires runs a commercial, but we get they pay us for that commercial time.
Right,
so
right.
It's the business structure of everything is super complicated.
But Q100 is a big station, and we're kicking ass.
Oh, yeah.
And so our billable rates, not to bore, are good.
Yeah.
So what they're paying in one spot is more than what they pay me on a daily. So if they're giving away one spot, and that might be one spot per station. I was on 4 stations. So then they basically tell me that there's no longer a position available, which, and I love everybody that came out for the support. That, I mean, it's very touching because you never know, like, how much, people enjoy or what kind of, importance, they have. Not everyone tells you every day, and it's,
Right.
until you're gone. And I was actually blown away this morning when I woke up at 7:30 and I got to sleep in a little later.
That was pretty nice. You got to admit that part was nice.
Yeah, and I actually was surprised I didn't sleep later, but my wife elbowed me and she was like, I guess saw some of the feedback coming through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's good stuff. And please, keep doing it because that will get me back on air. So, and they just told me that, they didn't want to get rid of me because I do other stuff for the station. I do weekends on Q100 on Saturday and Sunday as just an air talent, talking over music. Not quite like the Burt Show. I don't get as much, talk time.
Yeah, not as much real estate, but that's just the nature of the beast
Yeah.
in terms of our. But you stack up the Burt Show versus every other morning show in the market in Atlanta or any of the markets we're in, and generally we get more talk time real estate as it is and more time to build personality. What I think is interesting is that from a business standpoint, the decision may make sense on math alone. And when you when you look at like higher up management and stuff like that, they're looking at, okay, where do we save money here, save money there? Hey, if we're already paying this company, then we have 2 people being paid for the same position, and that doesn't make sense from a math standpoint. Now, what people don't understand though is like on a morning show like the Burt Show, where you're doing traffic, you're not sitting in studio with us, and a lot of people don't know that. Like, we're not. I mean, it'd be cool if you were.
That used to happen. The girl that I replaced used to be in there, but that was before Burt Show was syndicated across.
Right, and now
many platforms.
Yeah,
many
now it's
markets.
so complicated with all the things we're taping for different cities that. So what's interesting though is that people, and I saw this because I didn't really know what to expect, and I saw this on social media where you see people upset that there was any change to the show they listened to, and people were like, how can you guys let that happen when this new, I don't like this new thing, and traffic is super important to me, and I want to hear it, and I want it just like I always have it, where we have Khristian, we know Khristian, and we want that to happen. I think a lot of people underestimated that when it comes to the management side of the personal connection people had made to, just in terms of when you break down budget, just a traffic airtime spot versus you're in the studio a lot, and the bits that we do are super memorable. Food porn's like one of those ones where people either they love it or they hate it, but they still remember it.
Oh yeah, and even if they hate it, I feel like they'll still listen to it.
Oh yeah, because they want to see how they want to be offended because they want it to be
absolutely.
Gross. If it's too gross, they want to be like, all right, you should have given the kid alert, and then we get on. Well, sorry about that.
That's right, but knowing that they thought it was pretty clever in and of itself. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I didn't realize how important it was to a lot of people because it's a segment that is in the show, and it's kind of business as usual, but it's not like I'm saving lives. It's no, but maybe I could, maybe I have, but
in one sense though, and here's the thing why it is important that people, and I didn't really realize this till I started kind of going through the tweets and going through the posts and reading emails. That I've gotten emails because it was just it's crazy.
Emailing you like you're in charge.
Like I'm brand new.
How could you let this happen, Brian?
What about me on the show makes you think that I could have any corporate pull?
Hey,
I'm the
that's
one.
good.
I write the food porns. I mean, I can write you a super trafficky one next time. That's about it. But what I would say I realize now is that the traffic component is very important because in Atlanta and then in every city I've lived in and every city in the world, sometimes all of a sudden you hit brake lights, right? And you're like, what in the hell this is not where traffic usually is. Like, what in the hell is going on? And then you're like, okay, I can't find it on Twitter. I don't know what's happening yet. And we're going to find it on the traffic report. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, truck overturned on 285 and
chickens are on fire.
Right.
Fried chicken everywhere.
Crazy thing happened. And you're like, okay, that's now you're like, at least I know why I'm sitting in this.
Right.
Which is, I mean, that curiosity alone will make you crazy. And then you'll find out, well, can I avoid this or can I not? I'm sure there's some people who would say, man, I was on my way down this one freeway. I heard there's this explosion over here for no reason. And I went a way that I don't usually go because it's longer technically distance-wise.
But you're not sitting still.
And that's the most enraging thing ever. As long as you're moving forward, I feel like
you're getting places, and I agree. And it was actually, and it is important because I think management has this thought that apps, and they are getting your traffic from apps. I mean, and maps. I mean, it is moving that way. It's still, but people do listen for the traffic reports, especially if they're plugged into a show like The Burt Show, because they know they don't have to go anywhere else. They know that element is going to come up, and it will at least provide them with some information, and they don't have to be staring at their phone looking at Waze app to get your traffic. Well,
and the way the morning radio ratings game works is we want you to listen to the entire show. Now we know we don't want you to go anywhere. But you have a 2-hour drive. We want everything that you like, everything that you listen to, everything that's consistent to say the same. Because anything that upsets the flow of the show, you don't take it. The way ratings work in radio is just simple people with Nielsen meters. We don't know who they are, but they're out there, and they listen to an entire show. And if you listen to a whole show, that directly dictates how our ratings go, and then ultimately how much money we get. And if one person is like, no, I don't listen. I still love the show, but I don't like this new traffic thing. I don't like, and it bothers me. And I turn the station right there, and then I forget to go back. That's all we need is one person to forget to go back, and your ratings just take a beating.
They get sidetracked in their thoughts. They turn the channel. They start thinking about something else. They get zoned out, and before you know it, they've made it to work, and they've been listening to someone else for 30 or 40 minutes.
I get so mad at myself when I realize, and this happens on DVR too. I get so angry when I realize that I just watched commercials on something I have DVR'd. I feel robbed of time. I get so irrationally angry when I just sat there and I watched Real Housewives of Atlanta episode
from 2 years ago. Right. The commercials are 2 years old.
I'm sitting there zoned out, just staring at a Life Alert commercial. Right. God, you idiot! Like you can't. There's no way I can ever get that time back. Not like I was going to be productive with it anyway. Right. I'm watching a Real Housewives episode.
Absolutely.
I'm clearly not busy.
And that happens to me actually. We have recorded. It was Jim Carrey's The Grinch, and it was like 2 years ago. We've had it on our DVR, but it wasn't like the HBO version, so it was like the NBC version. And so we're watching commercials, and I catch myself doing it. I'm watching commercials that were from Christmas, like 2 years ago. It's like, come on.
You're like watching with a kid, and you get all excited, like, oh, look at these toys that were out like 2 years ago.
And my kid's like, Daddy, I want that. I'm like, okay, that's not even out. That was recalled. It killed 5 people. We can't buy you
Kids
that
were
anymore.
choking on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the other interesting thing, too, that I saw today, and this happens every time there's change in radio, but I think for this situation where you still work at Cumulus.
Yeah.
You still work at Cumulus. You still have a show at Cumulus. You still are going to be doing appearances and things, and who knows if this change is permanent or not. It could definitely just be something where they're like, whoop, didn't like that. That did not work.
Maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Right, because they didn't know how important it was. You're getting direct consumer feedback. But at least, Burt came on the show this morning and was like, listen, we don't know anything about this. We don't know nothing. Burt's like, well, we're definitely going to look into it. But, we did because we just heard from you that there was a change, but we didn't know anything.
It is a little mind-blowing that they didn't go.
No, it is. I mean, it's definitely caught everyone off guard in terms of our show. But I think the one thing though that is good about this situation is that we're able to talk about it to an extent where it's like, okay, this is what happened. This is the situation. Like, don't overreact, everybody. Like, food porn will still happen.
Yeah.
When we want to, we just got to be more cognizant of your time since you're not sitting in the traffic studio, but we can still do food porn. We can still do some of the fun things that we do. You can still have a segment on the show if you have a fun story about your
kids.
Because the show that I was on in Seattle that got fired, they don't say anything. You literally just show up. It was a Monday. We did the show. We had a great show. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, we have a meeting in Lisa's office, our program director. And then next thing you know, HR walks in the office because now we're all getting like severance letters, like termination notices. And the program director was super awkward. I liked her a lot. She's great, but firing's awkward for anybody.
Oh yeah, it's
firing. So she's trying to make small talk. She's like, so Brian, what fancy cities you be playing this weekend in stand up? And I was like, Mount Vernon, Washington.
Right.
Like,
Skokie, Illinois.
She's just killing time until our HR
Grim
person
Reaper
walks in.
comes in.
Yeah, she walks in, hands out severance notices, and our program director goes, well, guys,
it's been fun.
It's been a good ride. We had a good run, but it's over now. And I was like, good run? We were on the air for 10 months.
Is that a lyric to a song?
Yeah, that's not a run at all. That was like we were stumbling the whole time, and you guys just fired us. And then it was like happened so fast. I went into back into the studio real quick to grab my stuff, and to the midday person, Megan, I was like, well, we got fired. And she's like, shut up. I'm like, yep. And then next day, they don't say anything. Nope. It just, if you tuned into our show, all you heard was our midday person who's now doing a shift from 6 to 12. Wow. And it was like 12 songs an hour, all music. And she was instructed not to address anything, and no one was addressed anything. And so a lot of times when there's a change like that on a morning show, I think it's disrespectful to not. But I mean, you're never going to get to everybody. You're not going to be able to reach everybody with your on-air stuff because people aren't listening at that time. But I think it's disrespectful to the people that you still want to listen to your radio station just to act like they don't matter. But statistically, hate to be that guy, statistically, you probably don't. Because only a few people running around that actually rate the show are the ones that matter. So they think to themselves, well, whatever. If their favorite show's not on anymore, they're not going to be here anyway. It's very cutthroat, man. When you sit in these meetings with some of these like high-level programmers that work nationally,
totally,
they reduce it just to specific numbers, and the individual almost doesn't matter, which I think is disrespectful.
Well, but these days, I mean, with social media and everyone having a voice. It's and you don't know who have the people meters.
No, you don't.
The purple people.
They
meters.
Do. They know.
Yeah,
they call in a lot and try to win prizes. I think.
Yeah. Prize pigs.
I heard that name that made me laugh so much. For some of you people that aren't familiar with the behind the scenes of radio, but if you call in a lot, like every day to try to win, on the streets you're known as prize pigs because you just want to win stuff. But I just think that's just called people. Man, I want prizes.
Greedy. Well, no, I don't think.
Every time I go to the Atlanta Hawks offices to work on sketches, there's one of the things with my brother, I will get a free T-shirt. I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing a Shaky Beats festival T-shirt because they'll be like, do you want a shirt? I'm like, yes, give me all your shirts. Yeah. I don't need the shirts, but it's free stuff, and free stuff is great.
But the difference between the definition of what radio people would call prize pigs is, people that call every day, I mean, they're just trying to win stuff. But when you're out at an event and you have the same people that are traveling like out of their way, driving 40 miles to meet you at that appearance that you're doing just to get a free movie pass, like that is a prize pig.
So I did my prize pig impression. That's a great distinction too, by the way. That's what got me into the Koozie Gate problem with the Star 94, Jeff and Jen, that show.
I didn't hear about Koozie Gate.
I covered this a couple weeks ago on the show. It's basically I walked up to their tent as a joke at opening day, and I go, y'all got Ed Sheeran tickets or what? What are you giving away? And they were like, well, no, but we're giving away koozies, Jeff and Jen koozies. And I was like, that's funny. Because they didn't recognize who I was, clearly.
Oh, that's great.
So the promo girls gave me a koozie, and then they asked to take a picture with it and me. I was like, sure. And I was going to give the koozie to Bert anyway because I thought it was hilarious. And then they posted it on their own social media.
Oh.
And got blasted by people and then took it down. And it just was a funny little inside joke for me.
That was actually pretty damn funny. They're like posting, "Hey, isn't that Brian from the Burt Show?"
Then they kind of blew it up. Jeff kind of made it a big deal. Kind of got a little bit of whiny about it.
Did he get his panties in a while?
Yeah, from a comedian standpoint, I just thought it was kind of lame. So now I have a goal where I'll call it out right now. I'll call my shots right now. I'll be at Shaky Knees this weekend. I'm going to be running the Atlanta Hawks Snapchat, and I'm going to be upgrading people to VIP. The VIP section, which is right down by the stage. It's great. They got free food and free drinks in the VIP. It's awesome. And so I'll be upgrading people if you find me on Snapchat on Friday and on Sunday. And also, I'll be looking for a certain Star 94 1 tent. And if I find it, you better believe I am trying to get a picture taken in that tent. And I am just praying they post it again. That's because great. Now, you guys, because of how whiny they got over this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, just keep doing it. Yeah, the face for radio. Maybe it'd be a different promotions team out there. They won't. Right?
I can only hope.
Yeah.
But that's how the business works. It gets a little bit like that. I mean, clearly, though, the one good thing is that this isn't like you're still at Q100, still doing all that stuff. Now, I know we talked the other day. Oh, I got more questions. I got questions from people on the internet. So we'll get into those first, and then I'll add in some. How did you get into radio, Khristian?
Well, it's kind of a long time ago. I used to, when I got out of high school, I had a pretty unusual path as far as my careers go. I got my good enough diploma, which is my GED. So
that's not what I almost asked you if that's what it. I was like, "Is that what it stands for?" It's like, no,
it's good enough.
General equivalency degree. I almost caught myself being such a moron right there.
They gave me a $500 gift certificate to somewhere. I don't know where. I never got
concert tickets and a T-shirt.
That's right, absolutely. And so when I dropped out of high school, because I hated it. And I started working as a body piercer. And so...
Body piercer.
Yeah, so I was a body piercer for 8 years when the trend of body piercing really took off.
It was like tongues and stretching out the ears and nipples.
It evolved. When I first started, I was 18 when I first started. And by the time I stopped, when I was like 25... And then I actually ended up owning one of the stores. So I ended up becoming an owner in that store. But I pierced this radio personality who was really hip, and she was really like she was on fire at the time. It was like 95.5 The Beat, which is now I think WSB, right?
Yeah,
I think they're 95.5.
They're news, right?
Yeah, they used to be a top 40 station. It probably was
logical switch.
Yeah,
be the beat, and then go to news.
Absolutely, and so. My relationship with her over the years just kept on. Even I pierced her belly button. So, once you do that, once somebody is willing to take some clothes off and let you touch their body with a needle, you've kind of got this built-in trust. You've got this, experience together.
What's the craziest thing you ever pierced?
I've done everything. I've touched more penises than Elton John. Real gross. I'm proud of that. I've touched tons of penises.
Is there every part of it? Do you have to have training for that from like a urologist? Because I think I know I've seen pictures where people had the tip of it pierced and then
it's called an apodravia. If it goes through the head from the top to bottom, I know it hurts. It's cringe. Yeah,
but you got to know which side to do it on, so it's all flesh. You don't want to hit the
you go through the urethra.
Whoa! Yeah. Does it leak after that?
Yeah. It bleeds a lot. It actually, for a male, it can bleed up to 20. I know we're going on a totally different. Yeah, but this is a good subject matter.
People need to know this.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
Need to know this information.
If you get your penis pierced, it could bleed up to 24 hours straight. So, I've done everything, and when I first started, it was very little of those. So, it was mainly like the navel piercing. Parents bringing their 15-year-old daughter to sign and get, consent because, and I would imagine navel piercing is still happening, but there's a lot more trendier things like implants and, those facial piercings.
Those stud things.
Those are like technically kind of an implant type, deal because they have a, piece of metal that's underneath the skin that holds it in.
And then how do you get that out? You just got to yank it?
You got to finesse it out. Yeah, you got
just kind of like wiggle it.
Wiggle it till they get in there. Yeah, I kind of stopped doing piercing when that trend started happening. But as I was going years and years, like the genital piercings and the crazier stuff was coming as almost as frequent as like a navel piercing. So like where I would only do in the beginning maybe 1 or 2 male or female genital piercings a week. Towards the end, I could do 5 in a day.
God. How much does that cost to get your genitals?
Is it more expensive? Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I'm going to touch your genitals, I'm going to get paid more.
Do you want a tip too?
I mean, I like
maybe
one.
that's an inappropriate.
I had a tip jar. I mean,
maybe that's an inappropriate reference for a penis piercing. But how much tip?
Hey,
a lot of tip.
Just a tip. Just any tip. Just give me a tip. And I've got some weird stories. But
listen, if you're going to get your penis pierced, you're weird anyway. You're a weird person, and so I can't imagine like what would shock you when they did if someone does something weird.
It was. Well, you want me to go into one of my more shocking stories?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's exactly what I want you to do.
Okay, so...
And then we'll get back into how you got into radio through all this.
Yeah, sorry, I got off on a tangent.
No.
But this is good subject matter.
This tangent needed to happen.
Yeah,
man.
I think so, too. I needed to get this off my chest.
Piercing stories gone wrong?
Yeah, well, tales from the piercer.
Yeah, cleanse yourself from having to hold on to all these stories by yourself.
So, yeah, absolutely. So I've pierced, 65, 70-year-old grandmothers who come in with like mini skirts on with no panties on, who are shaved bald.
Jeez.
Like, I've had grandfathers want to ball gag the grandmother while I'm piercing her clitoral hood, which is,
That's an awful... All of that is awful, every part of that.
You know what? But I have to...
But I do, though, I do kind of respect the old people going in and getting weird because they're just trying to keep it fresh, maybe. In my mind, okay,
yeah.
see, here's how I heard that whole thing in my mind.
Right.
The ball gag and the clitoral thing. Is that now I'm hearing it like...
They're living
it's
life.
just two sweet grandparents, and their kids are all off having kids, and they were like, you know what? We've kind of fallen out of love, and we want to spice it up again.
I'm going to ball gag you, baby.
I'm
going to ball gag. And he tried to tip me like $30. Well, he did. If he could paddle her while I was doing it. Now, my bed, I had like a gynecologist bed. So I had stirrups.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like professional stuff because, these are tools that make my life much easier. For guys, it's just, it's all external.
Whip it
for
out.
women,
whip it out and let me pierce that thing.
I kind of I didn't have to get in there, but I did have to get more in there than I would.
Steady hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it only shakes, just a little bit.
The first couple times.
Yeah, so I mean, I've had weird stuff like that, but I'd say one of the most weird things is I had this. It was like lunchtime. I went and I took lunch. Came back. By the time I came back, there were like 15 people in the waiting room, all waiting for me. And so before I left for lunch, I had this dude come in, this kind of grandfather, kind of Sean Connery looking guy. It was like what's the guy's name? The most important man in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that dude.
The Dos Equis.
Yeah, it was like the Dos Equis dude, the most, badass man in the world. And he comes in and he's like, hey, I'm going to bring my girl in here. I was like, all right, dude, I'm about to go to lunch. I can handle it when I get back. He's like, cool. He's like, just to give you a heads up, when we get back there, can you give me a minute with her? And I'm like, sure, man. I mean, yeah, can I stay in the room? Do you want me to leave the room? I mean, whatever you want me to do. He's like, cool. I'm like, all right, I'll be back in 45 minutes. I come back. There's like 15 people. I'm like, all right, everybody. Everyone's cheering. I walk in. And parents are like, I don't have to wait any longer. I go back and I start setting up. And then when it's time to come and get them, they're my first two people. I bring them back. And so I sit down at my seat and I start unwrapping because all my stuff's autoclaved. Mm-hmm. Universal precautions. Cross-contamination.
You do it right.
Yeah, cross-contamination, disease control. I knew all that shit. And so I'm unwrapping my tools. And this dude's like, starts talking to this, this teacher-like woman who's kind of homely looking, but she was like in her 40s, not as old as him. And he's like starting to whisper, and he's like, this man has given us a few minutes to take a moment to symbolize this ring. And it's a navel ring, it's just with a little ball on it. And I'm just looking at him like, what? And as he's talking, I see his hand on the back of her neck. And like he's like starting to you could see the veins in his.
Pinching it.
He's like grabbing her by the nape of the neck, and I could see the
he's really
strain.
putting some effort into it.
He's like grabbing her like you would a dog, like it's a carrot, and he's like pulling her closer, and he's whispering, and he's like yeah, and then all of a sudden he just rears back and just straight pimp slaps her. I mean like,
jeez,
and I'm just jaw like, holy shit. And I'm like, and I turned and I just started laughing because I didn't know what to do. I froze in the moment. I didn't know if I should call the police. And she starts crying.
Like for real?
Dude, it took me so off guard. And so I'm kind of like turned where their face couldn't see me, and I'm facing the wall, but I'm like laughing my ass off, but trying to keep it in. And then I kind of turned back after I could kind of stop laughing. I'm sure they could see that I was laughing. And she's wiping the tears out of her eyes. And then she gains her composure, and then she starts talking to me like nothing happened. And all the time, she's got this huge handprint on her face.
So awkward.
I mean, dude, it was. And then afterwards, I remember running out of the room when they left, and I was like, holy shit, you never believe what the hell just happened back there. Like,
That's insane. So then she just went right back to like business as usual. This is how we do things.
Well, she was just like, oh, I remember she just complimented me on my necklace. She's like, oh, I love your necklace. Like, nothing happened.
Like, we can't have a normal conversation right now, lady. I just saw you get slapped in the face.
I just saw you
guy.
just get backhanded with a huge hand. I mean, and yeah, it was. I mean, I've seen it all. I mean, and I was young when I started, but I had seen and touched it all, literally.
So you were ready to get out of the piercing world.
Well, no, you know, it's kind of like a dead end. I mean, I rode the trend. Like the shop that I worked at was the biggest. We had the biggest shop in Atlanta. I mean, my old business partner, because I used to own Psycho Tattoo 2. People that are from Atlanta will recognize that name if you've been in this city long. We had
Psycho Tattoo 2?
Well, yeah, we had 3 stores. We had one in Marietta, which was by the Big Chicken. I don't know if you've seen the Big Chicken.
Seen the Big Chicken.
You have seen the Big Chicken.
I've seen
it's right down the street from the Big Chicken.
Big wood chicken on the side
huge,
of the
It's a huge cock. Sorry.
Yes.
So that was the one that I started at, but we opened up a second store. I ended up buying out a partner. I was owner of that. So I kind of like, the trend started dying off a little bit. We weren't clocked. More shops opened up. I wasn't doing the numbers. So it was like, you know, when I was doing it, I mean, I was making at 18, I was doing pretty damn well for myself.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, decided to get out of that and went into real estate, getting back to how I got into radio. Real estate market crashed. I was working at the W part-time, and I'd swear every single day that I would drive somebody around in our, like, brand new Cadillac Escalade, which was like it was like a shuttle for the W, because I was kind of like a concierge, get you whatever you want, you know, send some people up to your room.
You just handle the business.
Handle business, baby. I worked it. I serviced you. Not in that way. And I swear every time I drive someone around, someone would be like, are you on the radio? And so finally, and I know that is like the typical VO, and I know there were some VO questions where people are like, hey, how do I get in radio? People tell me, and typically any VO guy that has made it, you know,
that's voiceover for everyone who's done it.
Yeah, voiceover. Yeah, or even radio too, because people get in. You know, someone told me I had a good voice, and you know, and it's really not about the voice. I mean, it is a good thing to have if you have a good voice.
It's like this: if you have anywhere from decent to good voice, you'd be fine. It's just you can't have a terrible voice. Like there's some people I've met who are fantastically funny. And they're they just are great, but their voice is just, it gnaws on your eardrums when you hear them on the radio. And there's some people that work in radio that are on shows that do that, and they can't change that. They just have a gnawing voice.
Right, like Gilbert Gottfried, but he's so freaking funny.
Yeah, just grits on you.
But he's so funny.
And he's a specific situation.
Definitely. So, you know, but it got to the point where every day I was hearing it, and finally I was like, you know what? I'm just bored. I was like, I'm just gonna fucking go for it. And so I called Stacy C, which was a big personality on 95.5 The Beat. And this is, you know, I've been out of piercing for 10 years, but I still had, you know,
still had your Rolodex of piercings.
Well, yeah. And I called her up, and I'm like, hey, Stacy, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. I want to be on the radio. You know, which has always kind of been in my personality, and I always was like, yeah, I want to do that, and I think I could do that. And she's like, you know, I've been telling you should do that for years. And so she got me, she's like, I can't, you know, promise you anything, you know, but she's like, you know, call my friend Dutch. Dutch works for the game now, but he used to be our promotions director.
I love just that radio names, Dutch, of course.
Yeah, Dutch. Yeah, Eric is his real name. She's like, you know, I've got a good relationship with him. Not promising you anything, but he'll at least talk with you.
Yeah, go
so
meet.
Just drop my name, go talk with him. You know, tell him what you want to do. You know, say I referred you. And so I did just that. I emailed him, set up an appointment. I came in, and I was pretty much guns a-blazing from the start. I was like, when do I start?
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on, buddy. Hold on.
Easy now.
I'm great. He brought me into our program director, Rob Roberts, who's no longer with us.
No, he's still alive, but he's not.
Yeah, he's he's in D.C. And you know, he walked me around, introduced me to him, and I didn't even know who Rob Roberts was. I didn't even have idea of, okay, this is the program director. Like, this is the guy that is going to make the decisions.
Decide if you can talk through a microphone on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least on this station or these stations. And so, and I just straight looked at him. He, shook my hand and nice to meet you. If this guy wants to be on radio, like, I'm sure a million people who have said, and I was like, when do I start? When do you need help with anything? And finally, Dutch was like, just pump the brakes, man. I'm like, hey, I'm ready.
Yeah, dude.
I'm ready. And so, I went out, long story short, I got asked to go out to a promotional gig like that weekend. I came out, I showed up at 5 a.m. I kind of intern, but I'm an old ass intern at this point. I'm out of school. I'm not getting credits. I mean, I never went to college. I never went to broadcasting school. I just, and so I came out and I worked. They said, thank you. And they didn't tell me to come back again. I just showed up on Monday and was like, at the office, I'm like, can I help out?
So what was your first on-air stuff?
Well, the road was long. I still own the tattoo shop, which for me at 28 years old is kind of old to just start to go into radio with no experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, from my opinion, you got to pay your dues, and with not getting credits these days, it's even harder because legally they have to pay you with something, and if they're not going to pay you money, they get in trouble if they're just working even interns for free, and that's why credits through school they get away with that. You got to
have some sort of value, added value or something.
Yeah, like I worked for free for almost 3 years.
Wow.
Now that's not
just doing
50
like events
hours
and promotions.
Why it was Southside Steve. Anybody knows him?
Yeah, the Rock 100.
Yeah, he's a big personality on our rock station. He's been in this market for a long time. He was on 961. Star 961 back in the day or whatever that was, which was a huge rock station. So I was his like driver / assistant. So I drove him to all of his crazy gigs that we would do. So I did that. My goal was to be on air. I was on air within the first year, and I was on 99X, and I was just doing from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. So I wasn't even being paid. Yeah. Didn't even have a key to the station. But they let me.
Were you voice tracking it?
I was just voice tracking.
Yeah, okay.
I was just.
Which voice tracking means you record all the segments before you load them into the system. So it sounds like someone's in studio and they're not. Correct.
Yeah, it's a way of not having to pay someone that hourly. And some people like myself, even up until this point of, having to do a swing shift every day. I work on the weekends for Q, but I voice track that because, I'm already doing a swing shift. I already get no sleep. So the weekends, I'm not going to come in and be there for 6 hours.
The swing shift, the traffic shift that you were doing at Q100 is one of the most awful time-wise shifts ever. I mean, you're from 6 to 9 in the mornings, and then from 3 to 7?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's unreal.
I'm not digging ditches, which is...
No, I mean, that 100%, but that still is a lot of driving and a lot of
it's horrible.
Especially for your life.
It's tough. Yeah, especially I was living in East Atlanta. Even when we had a bridge... My ride home at night at 7 o'clock fucking sucked. I'm talking hour.
Yeah.
If I made it home in 30 minutes, it was like...
the greatest night
ever. Yeah, the atmosphere, aligned, and the gods were, putting out unicorns. It was, that was... So getting back to voice tracking, I was doing that, and so I hit that goal, but 3 years before I actually got even on the payroll as a part-time person.
And then that was doing part-time, just doing like the various shifts of music only?
Yeah, it was like just Saturday night, 2 to 4 a.m. And this was just so I could do this voice track shift, then go with my another program director who was the PD of 99X at that time, so I could air check with him, which people that are not into radio, that means when they take your audio from what you recorded on air and then they rip it apart and tell you how horrible it is, pretty much, and what you need to change.
Air checking's awful, especially when you do long form segments like if you air check this podcast, you would come up with all the specific things. Don't say that. Watch this word. Don't say it like this. How about that? You didn't have enough forward momentum. That segment was too long. Push forward. Yeah, all these things, technical things, which then leave you the next day just relentlessly going over in your head. Like, oh, did I say that word too much? Did I do this? Did I not? Totally. Am I rushing? Did I not finish that thought? All sorts of crazy stuff.
Did I not inflect Q100 right?
Just rattle the confidence for no reason.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I always took air checks as like, okay, well. And you think when you give an air check or you're going to get one, you're like, I know this one is awesome. Like, I know I fixed everything. And then he hears it and he's like, don't ever do that again. And you're like, what?
Well, and the hard thing for ones that like are all music shows is that they're air checking you on your tempo, your energy. Are you relaying any sort of information that's useful, that's valuable? Are you just adding nonsense? Are you just talking to hear your own voice? Are you getting out at the right time? Are you saying the station? Because I used to get air check. I used to do a weekend morning show live on Saturdays in Seattle because I wanted to learn how to do all that stuff.
Right.
Just to have a basic knowledge of how you load audio into the system, take calls with a Vox Pro recording
totally
and recorder, and then play them back, give away concert tickets, and so I used to do those too and give them to the program director, and they'd go like, "What? Why are you telling this quick story about your dog and trying to pick up its poop this morning?" And I'm like, "Because it's funny." And they're like, and I'm like, "It builds my personality." And they're like, "We don't need your personality right now. We need your personality to tell people we're giving away, Ellie Goulding tickets for Saturday's show at Key Arena. We don't need you to talk about picking up dog poop." I'm like, "Well, it's also 7 a.m. on a Saturday." And I used to tell people to call in. They'd be like, "Stop doing that." I'm like, no, I just tell people to call in and let me know what they're up to. And then I'd record the call and I'd talk about it.
Cut it up, maybe alter it.
Completely inappropriate of all the stuff I was doing. But that's because I was on the morning show during the week, and I figured, what, are they going to fire me for my Saturday shift?
And they did fire you, right?
Well, they fired us overall, but it wasn't because I was talking about dog poop picking up on Saturday.
Your fake picking up of the dog poop.
My ratings were huge on Saturday mornings. I'll have you know, for a Saturday.
No, I don't doubt it at all. I think your stories about dog poop, if you can make dog poop sound good, I mean, interesting, I think you could do it, man.
So when did you get the traffic shift? Or when did you switch into that and still doing on air?
So fast forward, 3 years, I was still doing part-time. I'd gotten into production, the production side of things. Actually, 6 weeks after I was working in promotions, corporate came down with a axe that anybody that wasn't getting credits had to leave. So no more promotions. But fortunately, I'd already gotten my foot in the door in the production department, where I was uploading trade spots, which is commercials, already pre-produced commercials that Home Depot sends us, and I was uploading them into the system and putting them together. So, unfortunately, the program director, the main guy, I guess he saw something where he kind of let me fly under the radar where promotions couldn't. And so that's where I did. And then Wendy, who used to be a personality and the Burt Show's traffic girl, this was before, I guess, the Burt Show was syndicated across so many markets. And I think before they stopped being under the Cumulus, employer-employee, relationship. She asked me one morning, I guess she wanted to go to one of these conventions that you guys go to, these,
morning show boot camp.
Yeah, something like that. And, she had been, this is right when Khristian started.
Okay.
And she came in and said, there was another traffic person doing for the other stations, and that person dropped the ball, was a pillhead or something, and never come in. So I was asked to do that just on a temporary. And then Wendy came in that interim and said, hey, I'm going out of town. I need you to cover this. And I remember her doing that, and she walked out the door, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to cover this shit for you.
Yeah.
Little did I know that in that week of me doing it, within the first few days, the response was kind of undeniable. I mean, kind of the same buildup of all the calls that came in today, and tweets and messages, but no one had heard me before, so they're like, and it was right at the time when 50 Shades of Grey came out, so it was like this whole 50 Shades Khristian, right. Before and within that week, it was like, I think that was, and then by the time she came back, it was like within the next week, I was doing all the stations.
Oh man.
So,
and then
I'll bet she was probably.
Did she quit, or or they let her go?
They let her go.
See, that's man, that's funny. You
don't ever want to go on vacation. No, don't go on vacation.
That's a Richard Branson model. So Richard Branson at Virgin says you can take all the vacation you want to. It doesn't care as long as you get your work done. But people panic when they take vacation, especially in the radio entertainment business, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much anyone likes you. They're trying to put the best product out there that they can. And so if that could feasibly happen. I mean, it could happen to anybody where somebody fills in and they're like, well, this is the guy or this is the girl. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it could be because they sound better, or it might be that the station's been waiting for a chance to make that hey, there's no better time than now.
I mean, if she was going to morning show boot camp in it'd be, in the capacity that she was working, which is, you're on air, and I'm sure on that show she was on air more than most traffic folks because
she became like she wasn't like
co-host.
She wasn't a co-host, but she was definitely
an in-studio
personality. She was like a Davi. I mean, like,
in-studio personality, because that's what's going to happen if you're in studio with us. Eventually, like, we're going to tap you for content and ask you about things. So when did you get into voiceover, like, just as so doing commercials and voicing other things? Because I know that Davi recently was getting an MRI, and they put her on hold or something, and you're the person. Oh,
I'm their on hold corporate. They have like this company, American Health Imaging.
So for people who want to get into voiceover as a job, people say people are sitting there going, you know what? People tell me I have a good voice for radio, and it's really difficult to break into radio, as we just heard from you.
Takes a long time, or luck, but
it takes you. It's both. Time
well, it's just
and luck.
you have to be willing to pay your dues. It doesn't matter in the voiceover. It doesn't matter in radio. So
in voiceover, where do you start? What do you get? You got to get a system. You got to work on it. You got to audition. How does that all
totally
work?
Well, with voiceover, a little bit different than radio. You could have a crappy voice and still be on the radio if you could talk. If you have the personality and the ability to talk, you could be even if your voice isn't like mine. You don't have.
I mean, they need unique voices of all kinds. I know.
Totally.
I did a corporate voiceover for Amazon Prime when they launched this college.
Yeah, just did
Amazon
something
Prime
for them
thing,
recently.
they just wanted someone to sound like, oh, look, I could have been a student.
Totally.
Amazon Prime, doing all that stuff.
Amazon Prime. So when I was smart enough when I got into radio, I was like, now that I'm here, I was like, I might as well explore at the acting side of things. I'm not saying I'm a great super, Brad Pitt, but I have an interesting style and an interesting look, and I kind of know that. So I'm like, and my personality, I'm like, puts me in a great place to pursue acting and pursue voiceover because I'm already going to be on air. So when I got into the production side of things, which is uploading commercials, that gave me the ability to eventually start voicing lots of commercials. I wasn't getting paid. I was doing it for the station. They're like,
but you're getting experience.
Totally.
Which, I mean, you don't want to hear like getting paid and experience, because that's like in the acting world that happens all the time. When I got into acting in LA, it was no pay, but it was copy, credit, and reel for your reel. So you just got credit for being in it. You got a copy of it, and you can put it in your reel. Granted, a lot of that stuff you
don't want to use it.
No,
you don't want to use it.
You got to learn for a while. You got to learn the mistakes. You got to build confidence.
Absolutely. And what I've learned now is that training to be a VO person in radio, because in radio, everyone has like this radio delivery for the most part. Like,
I do, and it sucks. It's the worst, even for my commercials where I have to do. Talk about Audi.
Endorsements are a little different, though. I think endorsements are a little different than actually like reading, because you they give you bullet points, and you're supposed to wrap your personality around it. Where when, just to educate people who are interested in VO, when you receive a piece of copy from someone like Amazon or someone like Ford, it is written and it in a way that it needs to be delivered exactly like they want to hear it, and you don't know how they want to hear it, but they don't want to hear it as a radio announcer.
Right.
These days, it's about being real, and so, typically it'd be like someone hand me a Ford spot. And I'm not talking a national Ford spot, one of our Ford spots that we just do on a local market, and it's like you're just supposed to belt out 50 seconds worth of content in a 30-second spot.
Oh yeah,
and
they always write too much in it.
Oh yeah, it's a typical thing you have to deal with. So it's really a different animal than radio. So but that's where I got practice, and that's where I was like, hey, this will bleed in the lines of where this starts and where this ends. I mean, it all runs together. So if I can build at the same, so I started taking improv classes. I started taking. I started getting a vocal coach. I took acting classes for not only. It all helps. It all helps because with voiceover, it's not necessarily about how your voice is. It's about how you deliver.
Well, it's about how much personality can you put into a very bland piece of just words,
Totally.
And sometimes people want too much out of those things. And at the end of the day, you just want to sound not cheesy, overexcited, but you want to get the information out in a way that's not completely obnoxious and annoying.
Totally.
So now you're auditioning for voiceover. Well, you've been doing that relentlessly.
Yeah, I tried. These lately, last couple weeks, I haven't been auditioning as much as I should. But I have now built, and it's a start, just like acting, just like comedy, just like radio. If you want it, start and don't stop.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
Sharpen yourself and get better.
Posting your own content. That's one thing I did agree with you on. Oh, I agree with you on a lot.
Oh, thanks. So you hate
the one
everything.
thing
You don't disagree with me on everything else.
I don't agree with how you pierce dicks, but I do agree
about how you hold penises so confidently.
No, about the improv. But I think people should take improv, at least one improv comedy class in their life, just as a human. It'll make you a better person to be around at parties.
So much fun.
It'll just make you better in group settings where you're standing in a living room and at a party and you're not. Now you just know how not to put the brakes on a conversation and to like chip in where people are like, yeah, this guy's fun to be around.
Right.
Not be that person who just like don't be a Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer would be the worst person ever. He's a no but guy. No, that's not wrong.
No,
wrong.
It's yes end. It's yes end.
Just keep the thing going. All right, a couple more questions. I think I'm gonna have to defend my points against moms and wives later. I'll do another. I'll do it later this week because I have don't believe this or not. I get to interview Chubby Checker. So
yeah, that'd be epic.
I get interview requests all the time, and I've decided for the podcast
from the public, from our listeners.
No, from like PR agencies.
Oh, nice.
They get the request. They have talent and they want this.
Do they pay you for that?
No, not at all. They just want they think they're offering to the average show content. So it's like,
but you're not going to air 90% of this content on the Burt Show.
The Burt Show, we're not airing anything. No. But what I decided is I just reply to all these PR people now. Yeah, I mean, you have to be a monster celebrity to get
Harry Styles.
Exactly, because people just... I'm taking this approach. I'm just going to interview the most random people ever about nothing really that they want to talk about, and then at the end of it, plug whatever they need plugged. So I have Chubby Checker, and then I'm also interviewing this woman who runs a goat rescue called Goats of Anarchy. And
that's pretty dope.
They do goat yoga. She's got like 1.5 million Instagram followers, which for her, it's like, yeah, hey, good social boost. When I post this podcast, will you give me some retweets? Hit me with some bump on that Instagram. So I'll do that. That'll be later this week, and it'll also feature Chubby Checker and maybe Goats of Anarchy. Because this has been too much fun talking about your weird path into radio.
Sorry, yeah. So I hope I answered some questions, and you can hit me up with more.
No, that's exactly what I think. People want to know more about how you got into radio. I mean, that's fascinating. That piercings and people getting slapped and that you owned all those shops. I think that's fascinating. People don't get to hear that side of you very often. All right, we got some more questions. You just had a daughter. You have a son. Who's what? How old's your son?
4. He'll be 5 in September.
He's going to be 5 soon. And you're married.
I am married.
And the question was, 2. 1, people want to know how you met your wife. And 2, how it's different now that you have a little daughter versus your son. And how you feel, because you just had her, 6 months ago?
She's 10 months now.
10 months.
She's 10 months. Well, I mean, my son is my dog. I mean, he's my boy. He is getting on my everlasting nerves.
Well, he's a little bit of a wild man at times.
Well, he's just testing. Now he's almost 5, and he's just testing.
Yeah, pushing boundaries.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talking back to, just kind of making life at points more difficult than they need to be.
Does he ever talk back to you and you're pissed off at it, but it's funny?
There's sometimes
you want to give him a high five, but your wife's right there.
There's sometimes where my wife will have to turn and walk out of the room where she is laughing like, who the hell is this kid? Like, she went in, just to give you an example, she went in the other night to say, hey, Kai, good night, buddy. I've already tucked him in. And she comes in and says that, and he has got both middle fingers up in the air, like, boom! And he doesn't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, he doesn't know what middle fingers are.
I don't think he does.
I think it's kids learn.
But why would you have both of them up?
Because he probably saw it on a movie or TV and it looked funny to him. I remember once I told my dad, I was probably about 6 years old, and I heard I remember what movie it was. Screw you is the phrase I heard.
Oh yeah.
And it sounded funny. And in the back of the van, my dad said something like, Hey, gotta buckle your seatbelt. And I was like, screw you! And he was like,
hey,
what?
Screw you!
And in my mind, I was like, what? What's wrong with a screwdriver? I was like, I'm poking you with a screwdriver is what I thought it meant.
Absolutely.
Didn't mean that.
So he love him to death. But he does stuff all the time. Now, my girl, instantly when I had my boy, I mean, like, I know how everyone's like, oh, I'm instantly like, oh, I love you. Like, for me, even with my little girl, when they're born, I'm like, I don't have my wife, it's been in her stomach, for 9 months.
Yeah, the
She's
connection
got this,
is so much different.
Yeah, they hand the baby to me. I'm like, I don't know you. I'm like, hey, but like, I don't have that instant love. But I will tell you, my little girl has me wrapped around her damn finger. When she not that I love her any more than my son, because my son he's my boy. But when she looks at me and smiles, like, it makes my whole shit light up. I'm like, oh my God, this must be. And my little girl is really damn cute.
Do you think it's like one of those things where, as a guy, your son, you like immediately, like subconsciously, like, he's a boy, he'll be a man someday, he can take care of himself. I'll help him grow to learn. But like, in your mind, because you're a guy, you look at a little boy and you're like, you're tougher. And then because we're raised subconsciously to be like, protective of women. And now it's your little girl, and now you're thinking like, oh, I gotta keep my eye on, I gotta protect you, gotta keep creepy boys away from you forever. Like, this is all happening subconsciously.
Oh yeah,
to make you like bond over that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
situation.
with my boy, I think I'm pretty even with both. When they fall on them, they start crying, and I'm like, okay, get up, suck it up. I mean, unless they're really
you have to have
hurt.
a level of like tough love in those regards.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pamper, but and with my son, I mean, my son, I've gotten him very protective, almost too protective. He is so annoying with anything my daughter picks up. Like, even if he hasn't played with it in a year, dude. If you pick up something and I just come over and grab it and be like, I was playing with that. I'm like, dude, you haven't looked at that in a year. So, like, to the point where I'm like, give it back to her. Yeah. Like, we're trying to break him of this habit. So anything she's got, he wants, and anything, but he is protective. Hey, she's doing something. Now he just picks her up and moves her. Like, she's getting into something because she's everywhere. She's almost walking, and she's almost 10 months old.
She's just exploring.
Yeah,
but I think that's a funny point you brought up, like the fact that we don't bond the same, and it's impossible.
No.
And I know it's super cliche to say that, where people are like,
I do.
Dude, first time you look at your life changes. And
I didn't.
I think it would be disrespectful for a man who just had a baby to even try to compare the amount of bond and love that we both have for a baby, because it's impossible for us to feel that experience. We have to build it up and get to know this baby, and then now start to go like, okay, now I can bond with it. I mean, you carried this baby, though. Your body created this baby. Yeah, I was in on it a little bit.
No, I wasn't in on it at all.
I was in on it in the beginning.
About 30 seconds of it.
It was an assist.
on
like a slam. I threw you an alley-oop, but you did all the dunking, jumping, running, all the athletic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think because I've heard guys try to say it like, nah, man, couldn't love this thing any. No, I mean, listen, you will eventually, I believe. But even then, it's like, I think the bond between a mother and any child is just genetically strong. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's growing inside. Your body is changing to support it. And that brings up another point. It's like, I couldn't stand, even through both pregnancies. And the question, I met my wife. My wife and I met at Wild Bill's. I don't know, you've never been to Wild Bill's?
Wild Bill's? No.
Okay, so Wild Bill's is this place in Gwinnett that was like a country.
Oh, one of those, just a big country bar.
Yeah, but they did a lot of concerts there. But we used to do a lot of promotions there. They also used to do this MMA fight night there. That was pretty. David Oblas, who's a big fight promoter in Atlanta, who does a lot of like MMA fights. I think they do it at like, I don't know, it used to be Cowboys in Marietta. Or I don't even know what it's called now. But so we used to go. So we met at fight night. Okay. She grew up in California, and one of her good friends who trained at this big fight school in California was fighting in the main event that night. So she drove up. She had moved to Birmingham briefly to live with her mom because her mom had moved there to take care of some family member. And so she drove up to meet him. And actually I was walking around that night. I had an anaconda around my arm.
See, that's so fight night of you.
Yeah.
So was she driving up? Did she have like romantic interest in this fighter guy?
No.
Friends? So you didn't just swoop a MMA guy's girl.
Well, it was funny because when we were up in VIP because Southside Steve from the rock station was the ring announcer. So I was with him. I actually drove him, and he so we were in on the stage, like this VIP area, and this fighter walked up this girl and was like, "Can she hang up with you?" Because he was got to, get ready to fight. Yeah. So he kind of left her alone with the wolves, with the great white sharks.
You guys swooped on her. Yeah. Bunch of radio people up in a VIP area.
Totally. So we had a long distance relationship for a few years. She didn't live here throughout most of the first pregnancy, so I didn't have to deal with.
That's another thing too. So she moved out right towards the end of it.
After we had my son, but we were together. We made it work for almost 2 years before it's not like I got her pregnant like 6 weeks after we met. So we did the long distance thing for like a year and a half. She got pregnant. When my son was born, I moved her like the week she got out of the hospital.
Gotcha.
So she gave birth in Birmingham.
Alabama.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. So, but the whole throughout even this pregnancy, like she would feel my stomach. And I'll be like, I don't feel anything. And it almost so annoying. Like, listen, like, aren't you excited? I know. I mean, not really. Like, I don't know what to expect, but there is not this. I don't have this bond.
Right.
Like, I don't know what to expect. I want it to come out healthy. 5 fingers, 5 toes. On
each foot and hand.
Yeah,
not just collectively.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where they're placed. Just make sure the numbers work. And so even through this pregnancy, where I got to, I was with her every night. I was like, feel my stomach. You feel it? No, I don't feel it kicking. I don't. I'm sorry. And so it was like, and so when she was born, still like I've seen dudes like cry. Oh my God, like. It's the power of birth, and more power to you if that's how you emotionally feel. Like when you're, it's a happy day. I wasn't like that.
But I mean, I think a lot of people listening like, how could you? But I think if more men were honest, I think that, and let's be real right now. The reason that there's deadbeat dads and dads that want nothing to do with the baby is, well, I mean, it's probably a mixture of reasons. One, maybe they're just bad, crap people. Two, they don't like the woman they're with. But 3, also, like, we don't naturally have that bond. And I think that it kind of goes deeper into genetics. I have a couple friends who like to discuss these things, but like genetically, men are programmed to just crank out a ton of kids, not to really think about one, not just really care specifically about that one, like it's that special, but genetically deep down, now we have rational thoughts and we've created like moral fabric and guidelines that, monogamy is somewhat, we try. Yeah. As a human, we're capable of those higher level processing and decision making.
It's all programming, really.
Right. So we try to we do our best. I'd say, men do their best.
Some of them.
But some try, some are better than others. But you make a choice to build those bonds because I don't, it'd be impossible to say that you could have the same bond with any child no matter what, I mean, I don't know. I would be hard pressed not to make fun of a guy crying right after, and just making it sound like they love the baby just as much as their wife or their girlfriend.
Yeah,
does.
I mean, I guess there'd be a couple reasons you would cry. I mean, the fact that everyone's healthy and okay is,
you're happy about that,
or maybe your life's over.
You're
like,
scared.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell's coming.
You're scared. Well, yeah. I mean, it just. We've been talking a lot about deadbeat dads and dads not sticking around, and I'm like, but they have realistically, genetically, we really have the choice to take off because the baby's not. We're not having to give birth to the baby. And
hey,
it's
there
awful
are plenty of animals that do the do and then dip.
Some of them eat the babies afterwards.
Yeah, some of them dip.
Even like you.
Yeah, some of them dip. Some are like, all right, peace. Here it goes. And so that's where I met my wife, and that's how I feel about my daughter and my son. Love them both.
Couple more questions. People want to know if you remember. I don't even know if you remember what your favorite food porn was on the Bird Show. Do you remember the favorite one you've ever had?
Man, there are a bunch, and I think we need to really come up with like a greatest like mesh like 20 of them, like to where it's just the good.
You can do one of all meat and mouth references.
There's a lot of meat and there's a lot of mouths. I want to say. I don't know, man. There are a bunch. I mean, I really liked the Japanese with having that Japanese. I mean, it adds, and I like the German too because it just added
an element of ridiculous.
But as far as my favorite, I mean, there are a bunch that were really, really good. I mean, yeah, I would have to say. I mean, I really like the whole. Yeah, I'd have to say the German or the Japanese probably, but I just think
they add so much insanity to it.
Well, just the whole interpretation of that guy having to try to say cabin stabbing scene, dirty dancing, like he couldn't come up with the Japanese with
I do the impression, but it sounds so racist if I did it. But he was
cabin stabbing,
dirty
dancing. something like that.
All right, before we get out of here, what if people want to hit you up for anything, whether it's voiceover, whether it's just questions, whether it's like work, acting work, if anyone out there is casting and needs former penis piercer with sleeve tattoos.
Hey, I can still come out of retirement and pierce a hell of a penis.
A manly voice. Man, that should be a punishment on the Burt Show. We lose a bet. Someone's got to get their junk pierced.
Or a nipple. I mean, we could do.
I'd rather do nipple than the junk, but I still don't want to.
Yeah, you probably. Either. Well, I mean, there's some. Depends on what part of the junk. There's many parts of the junk to be pierced. Some just right thin skin. Some meat.
No meat.
No meat.
All thin skin.
No meat.
So where can people find you? On Twitter, it's Kaylee Voice.
At Kaylee Voice. You can hit up. Yeah, I mean, at Kaylee Voice on Twitter. You can hit me up on Gmail. I spell the Lee with an L-E-I instead of L-E-E, so it's, Khristian Lee with a K.
Yeah. Just annoys people who
try to find it. Just pisses everyone off.
Come on, just to be difficult.
But yeah, Twitter's the best way. I mean, anything. And
do you have a website too?
Yeah, KhristianLee.com. Actually, that's spelled with 2 E's. I'm a freaking train wreck.
Man, you are really branding yourself great. Well, no one can find you.
No, they can find, if you Google Khristian Lee, I'll come up. Okay. Khristian with a K. But like for any type of voiceover needs, I mean, commercials, on hold messages, I can do it all. To ask me questions, I'll answer your questions. If you have, I can guide you in the right direction as far as how I've been building my VO career, which continues to grow, and hopefully will continue. Things.
You'll for sure.
Yeah.
Will.
I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe the stars will align, and if the pull is big enough, maybe I'll be back on the traffic.
Slanging that traffic.
I mean, you know what? Just to say about traffic, like, is it my goal and dream to do traffic? No. Like, I'm not passionate about traffic patterns. I'm not that guy. I'm not in hell. But when I was asked to do it, it was my way of connecting with our audience and providing them with information that was needed. Fortunately, they took to my voice and they like the way I deliver it. And, so at least some do. And we've heard from some of them. So it's not my goal in life, but I would love to continue doing it if that is what our listeners want.
And you never know, man. There's, listen, if I didn't lose my job in Seattle in terms of the capacity of being a morning show host, I wouldn't have gotten into news talk radio, wouldn't have done that for 6 months on a fill-in basis in Seattle, then wouldn't have ended up getting on the Burt Show. So everything, sometimes
happens for a reason.
Sometimes one thing just motivates you to start looking down other directions, whether it's more voiceover and more other things, or maybe other stations I got to be imagining are, I don't want to put it out there in the world, but I'm sure if I ran some other stations, I'd look into it. I'd see what our budget looks like, and I'd see what we could do.
Yeah, you know what? In hitting on that, I'm like, if I'm going to go to another station, I'm not going to report traffic.
Just as an on-air talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I have the ability and the opportunity. I mean, unless someone offered me, an offer I couldn't refuse, but to continue building my my brand on Q100, still being on air, still being a talent. And, I don't want to leave, having the Burt Show. I even know, because I'm not going to go somewhere else. I'm not going to, I really love where I'm at. I love this crew.
Yeah.
And I love how great everyone's doing. I mean, we are kicking ass. I'm not saying we as it's part of me.
No, you're part of it, clearly. But you see all the comments. It's people tune in and they want it to stay the same because they like exactly how it goes. So
yeah. I mean, which is flattering, and it definitely it's a beautiful thing. And I thank you for all the support and kind words. On that note, hopefully you'll be hearing me soon.
On that note, on all that good stuff, please get me back.
I don't want to start crying.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for talking. I'm sure this has been definitely the most enlightening conversation I've had with you as just a friend, learning about all the piercings and everything else. Has been fun.
To vomit all of my crazy shit on you.
And later this week, I will talk about boxing and my mom's anger about it, and I will also fight more with you moms and wives. Kidding, I'm trying to compliment you. So thanks for listening. You can find the show, as always, on the Burt Show app or on Audio Boom. And Patrick will be back in next week, so I'll have a couple more guest hosts. We'll also have Chubby Checker, see how long I can keep him on the line talking about absolutely nothing important. And that's going to do it for the Moote Points podcast. Thank you guys for listening.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth. Teenagers can communicate entirely in emojis.
How was the birthday party? Pizza slice, kitten, soccer ball, pineapple?
Truth. It's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
What are you talking about? Paperclip, shoulder shrug, high five, wizard hat? What?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.